No species will ever forget the moment humanity's patience finally snapped. Part 2. They say hindsight brings clarity. 5 years have passed since the event known as the Awakening, when humanity demonstrated why patience should never be mistaken for weakness. I am Kyle Ain, senior diplomat of the Etherian Collective, and I write this account because I see patterns forming that too many choose to ignore again. My species was neutral during the original conflict. We Etherians pride ourselves on our ability to observe and analyze without emotional interference. Our crystalline neural pathways process information in purely logical patterns. Or so we thought. Recent events have forced us to reconsider many of our assumptions, particularly about humans. The reformed Galactic Council operates differently now. The Grand Chamber where we meet no longer segregates species by technological advancement or military power. Humans sit amongst us as equals, sharing their knowledge freely while asking only for honest cooperation in return. Ambassador Grace Thompson leads their delegation with the same kind of patience that once masked their true capabilities. But beneath the surface of our new cooperation, trouble brews. My position grants me access to intelligence reports from across the galaxy. 5 days ago, I observed a pattern that sent pulses of alarm through my neural clusters. The Drachnid territories, once considered too primitive for council membership, have begun refusing human medical aid. The Vorian Unity, a species known for their warrior culture, recently withdrew from 3 different cultural exchange programs. The Seer Collective has started reconstructing military installations in direct violation of the new charter. Small actions, perhaps, but they remind me of historical records from before the Awakening. The same dismissive attitudes, the same dangerous assumptions about human nature. Have we learned nothing? Yesterday, I witnessed an incident in the Council's memorial garden that crystallized my concerns. A group of Varaxian youth were mocking the Stellar Dawn Monument, calling humans weak for mourning their dead so openly. A human child. They call them teenagers. Overheard them. She did not respond with anger. Instead, she invited them to join her in placing memorial flowers. The Varaxians laughed, knocking the flowers from her hands. The girl, Sarah Mitchell, according to my later inquiry, simply smiled and said, "Our strength is not in our ability to destroy flowers, but in our choice to keep planting them." The Varaxians left, but I noticed their leader glance back, confusion evident in his primary eye ridges. That interaction represents the larger pattern I observe forming. Some species interpret human philosophical responses as renewed weakness. They forget too quickly what happened to the old council. They forget why we changed. Ambassador Thompson seems aware of these undercurrents. During yesterday's session, she calmly noted that human warships have upgraded their defensive capabilities, speaking as casually as one might discuss the weather. The chamber fell silent, neural tendrils and sensory appendages twitching as species remembered what human ships are capable of. But more concerning than these obvious tensions are the whispers I hear through diplomatic channels. Talk of secret meetings in the Outer Rim, Unofficial gatherings of species who feel humiliated by the new order of cooperation and transparency. They speak of resistance, of reclaiming their destiny, of teaching humanity its proper place. They sound exactly like the old council before the awakening. I have shared my concerns with Admiral James Morrison, who still commands the Combined Emergency Response Fleet. His response was typical of human communication, layered with meaning. He smiled, thanked me for the information, and said, "History teaches many lessons. The wisest students are those who learn from others' mistakes rather than repeating them." The implications were clear. Humanity sees the pattern too. They recognize the signs. Yet, once again, they choose patience first. As I compile this record, I find myself wondering, will these dissenting species realize their error before history repeats itself? Or will they, like their predecessors, mistake human restraint for weakness until it is too late? The next few months may provide an answer. Sensors have detected unusual activity in the restricted zones of the Outer Rim. Ships gathering in numbers that violate treaty restrictions. Energy signatures that suggest weapons testing. A familiar pattern forming again, like ripples in a pond that never learned why it should fear the depths beneath its surface. The first concrete evidence arrived through an unlikely source. A Varaxian trade vessel, malfunctioning after passing through an ion storm, transmitted data bursts across all emergency frequencies. Among standard distress signals were encrypted messages that our security systems flagged immediately. My position as senior diplomat granted me access to the decryption process. What we found sent shockwaves through the Reformed Council's intelligence division. Star charts marking hidden installations. Supply route coordinates. Weapon schematics that violated dozens of treaty provisions. But most disturbing were the meeting records. 17 species had formed what they called the Galactic Preservation Alliance. Their stated goal to restore the natural order that existed before humanity forced their new age of cooperation upon us. Admiral V.C. Tour of the Drachnid territories led this coalition. Their meetings took place in abandoned mining facilities in the Outer Rim, beyond standard patrol routes. The Admiral's recorded speeches reminded me of old historical files from before the awakening. Let me share a portion of his address to the Alliance leaders. These humans presume to teach us about civilization. They emerged from their gravity wells centuries ago. My species had mastered star travel while their ancestors still fought with pointed sticks. We will not bow to their forced equality. The Varaxian ship's data revealed 3 major weapons development facilities hidden in gas giant atmospheres. The locations were cleverly chosen, areas where sensor readings would be naturally distorted. They were developing something called quantum phase disruptors, theoretically capable of bypassing human shield technology. I accompanied the inspection team to the first facility. Ambassador Thompson insisted on joining us, against all security. Recommendations. The human approach to danger continues to baffle me. She walked through the abandoned facility, examining the weapon prototypes with what appeared to be genuine curiosity. When we entered the main research lab, She surprised everyone by correctly identifying the quantum phase calibration sequence. The human had spotted a flaw that would have caused the weapons to backfire catastrophically. She pointed this out with the same calm demeanor one might use to discuss a minor calculation error. The message was clear. Humanity had already understood and solved the technical challenges these weapons presented. Their shield technology had likely been designed to counter such attacks before the weapons were even conceived. Further intelligence revealed more disturbing developments. The Sayre Collective had constructed massive underground shipyards beneath their southern polar ice caps. Thermal masking technology hid them from standard scans. But as Ambassador Thompson casually mentioned during the investigation, human sensors had mapped these facilities months ago. My neural pathways struggled to process the implications. These species were not merely planning resistance. They were actively preparing for war. Yet every discovery revealed that humanity had already known and chosen not to act. Their patience, once again, was being mistaken for ignorance or weakness. The coalition's plans grew more ambitious. We uncovered evidence of attempts to replicate human technology through reverse engineering. The Drachnid territories had somehow acquired debris from the old Council Station destruction. They spent 5 years studying the antimatter residue, believing they could reproduce humanity's weapon capabilities. Admiral VC's personal logs revealed an obsession with human military power. He had collected thousands of hours of battle footage from the Awakening. His notes showed a fundamental misunderstanding of what he observed. He focused on the weapons, the ships, the tactics, missing entirely the restraint that made them truly formidable. A particularly worrying discovery came from the Higo remnants. They had revived their bioweapon program, attempting to engineer viruses specifically targeted at human physiology. The research team included several scientists who had been rescued by human drop troopers during the Awakening. Their gratitude, it seemed, had not survived their wounded pride. The scope of the resistance grew clearer with each revelation. Training, facilities on rogue moons, propaganda networks spreading through civilian channels, fleet movements disguised as trade convoys, a complete shadow infrastructure of defiance built while humanity watched and waited. Most concerning was the coalition's recruitment effort. They approached species that had benefited most from human medical and technological assistance. Their message was seductive. Take back your pride. Resist human dominance. Remember your own greatness. Some refused. The Vextari, for example, sent a coded warning to human intelligence. A gesture that spoke volumes about their understanding of the true power dynamics at play. Supply route coordinates, weapon schematics that violated dozens of treaty provisions. But most disturbing were the meeting records. 17 species had formed what they called the Galactic Preservation Alliance. Their stated goal to restore the natural order that existed before humanity forced their new age of cooperation upon us. Admiral V.C. Tour of the Drachnid territories led this coalition. Their meetings took place in abandoned mining facilities in the Outer Rim, beyond standard patrol routes. The Admiral's recorded speeches reminded me of old historical files from before the Awakening. Let me share a portion of his address to the Alliance leaders. These humans presume to teach us about civilization. They emerged from their gravity wells centuries ago. My species had mastered star travel while their ancestors still fought with pointed sticks. We will not bow to their forced equality. The Voraxian ship's data revealed 3 major weapons development facilities hidden in gas giant atmospheres. The locations were cleverly chosen, areas where sensor readings would be naturally distorted. They were developing something called quantum phase disruptors, theoretically capable of bypassing human shield technology. I accompanied the inspection team to the first facility. Ambassador Thompson insisted on joining us, against all security recommendations. The human approach to danger continues to baffle me. She walked through the abandoned facility, examining the weapon prototypes with what appeared to be genuine curiosity. When we entered the main research lab, she surprised everyone by correctly identifying the quantum phase calibration sequence. The human had spotted a flaw that would have caused the weapons to backfire catastrophically. She pointed this out with the same calm demeanor one might use to discuss a minor calculation error. The message was clear. Humanity had already understood and solved the technical challenges these weapons presented. Their shield technology had likely been designed to counter such attacks before the weapons were even conceived. Further intelligence revealed more disturbing developments. The Sayre Collective had constructed massive underground shipyards beneath their southern polar ice caps. Thermal masking technology hid them from standard scans. But as Ambassador Thompson casually mentioned during the investigation, human sensors had mapped these facilities months ago. My neural pathways struggled to process the implications. These species were not merely planning resistance. They were actively preparing for war. Yet every discovery revealed that humanity had already known and chosen not to act. Their patience, once again, was being mistaken for ignorance or weakness. The coalition's plans grew more ambitious. We uncovered evidence of attempts to replicate human technology through reverse engineering. The Drachnid territories had somehow acquired debris from the old Council Station destruction. They spent 5 years studying the antimatter residue, believing they could reproduce humanity's weapon capabilities. Admiral VC's personal logs revealed an obsession with human military power. He had collected thousands of hours of battle footage from the Awakening. His notes showed a fundamental misunderstanding of what he observed. He focused on the weapons, the ships, the tactics, missing entirely the restraint that made them truly formidable. A particularly worrying discovery came from the Higo remnants. They had revived their bioweapon program, attempting to engineer viruses specifically targeted at human physiology. The cultural exchange programs blossomed, with humans learning coalition languages, including the notoriously difficult Vorian battle chants. Thompson herself delivered speeches in multiple alien tongues, demonstrating a willingness to understand on their terms. They shared their entertainment, now accompanied by historical context, turning coalition analysts into fascinated students of human narrative. They opened their hospitals and research centers, showcasing medical advancements that dwarfed previous technological exchanges. When a Vorian scientist attempted to steal genetic research, he found it freely published. His espionage rendered unnecessary. The student exchange program proved devastatingly effective. Human teenagers lived with coalition families, while their children attended Earth schools, fostering friendships and cultural understanding that no military intelligence could replicate. They returned with tales of human video games, sports, and pizza. shifting public opinion more than any official diplomacy. The coalition's propaganda was met with humor, human jokes diffusing serious accusations. When Admiral VC Tour claimed mind control through entertainment broadcasts, Thompson invited him to watch cat videos, the footage of his laughter going viral. Yet, beneath this facade of diplomacy, humanity's edge remained sharp. Their brightly painted medical warships still carried antimatter weapons. Their cultural attachés were combat-trained, and their diplomatic facilities could transform into fortresses. During a tour of Earth's Defense Command, Thompson revealed their real-time tracking of every secret coalition installation and weapons cache, not as a threat, but as the coalition, blinded by their own hubris, mistook human kindness for weakness, their willingness to share for desperation, and their patience for fear. They were about to learn, as their predecessors had, that human kindness was not the absence of strength, but its ultimate expression. Admiral VC Tour launched his uprising on a Sunday afternoon, believing it would catch humanity off guard. He failed to grasp that humans are never truly defenseless. The coordinated attacks targeted 30 Sci-Fi human medical facilities, believing their destruction would demonstrate human vulnerability while limiting casualties. They did not realize these facilities doubled as emergency response centers, fully equipped for such scenarios. From the Reformed Council's command center, I watched as the uprising unfolded. Ambassador Thompson, casually dressed and sipping coffee, showed no concern. The first attacks met with unexpected resistance. Human teaching hospitals, staffed with veteran drop troopers, became impromptu battlegrounds. The attack on the Vorian facility revealed a critical miscalculation. The human medical ships, far from being converted civilian vessels, transformed into formidable warships. Maintaining their medical bays while deploying advanced weaponry, many coalition commanders surrendered immediately. Admiral VC Tour, witnessing his plans crumble, made his final mistake. He ordered the deployment of quantum phase disruptors against the human flagship, the HES Grace. Thompson merely smiled. The weapons backfired spectacularly, not destroying the human ships, but disabling the coalition's weapon systems. Thompson explained that converting an attack into a non-lethal response required more skill than simple destruction. VC Tour's command center received an unexpected transmission from Dr. Maya Patel, offering medical assistance. Enraged, he ordered a direct assault on Earth. The response came not from Earth's defense fleet, but from the coalition ships themselves. Their crews, many with personal ties to humans, refused the order. Several Draconid captains surrendered. Their English learned from human entertainment. VC Tour's final act of desperation, activating sleeper agents, revealed humanity's most subtle defense: friendship. His spies, treated as guests, not threats, had been peacefully converted. A telling incident occurred at the new Singapore Station medical facility. A coalition infiltrator, tasked with sabotage, couldn't follow through after recognizing his human nurse as his child's caregiver during a serious illness. He turned himself in, concerned only for his pet hamster. The uprising lasted less than 6 hours. Not a single human facility fell. Coalition forces surrendered or retreated, their weapons mysteriously malfunctioning. Throughout, human medical ships continued to answer distress calls, treating even their attackers. VC Tour, attempting to salvage his plan, threatened to reveal human diplomatic secrets. Thompson responded by publishing all records on the Galactic internet. stating, "You cannot threaten to expose what we freely share." The final confrontation occurred on VC Tour's command asteroid. Thompson arrived alone, bearing cookies, requesting a meeting, citing the human tradition of breaking bread with enemies. VC Tour, in a fit of rage, attempted to shoot her, but his weapon fired at a hologram. The real Thompson, coordinating the peaceful resolution from her yoga break, watched as VC Tour's own guards arrested him. They too had personal ties to humans, stating, "We cannot fight against those who heal our sick, teach our children, and share their cookies." The most powerful response to the uprising came from coalition civilians. Protests erupted across coalition space, not against humanity, but against their own governments for risking the loss of human friendship. Signs in multiple languages demanded continued access to human music, food, and social media. A group of Voraxian teenagers launched a particularly effective campaign by releasing recordings of their human friends teaching them Earth dances. As we process the magnitude of these events in the council chamber, Ambassador Thompson made an announcement that demonstrated why humanity's approach to power was so revolutionary. Instead of punishing the coalition species, Earth was increasing the number of medical facilities in their space. Every failed attack site would be rebuilt as a larger hospital. Every disabled weapon platform would be converted into a cultural center. When asked if this response was too lenient, Thompson replied, "True strength lies not in the ability to punish, but in the choice to heal." In the wake of the failed uprising, humanity revealed why they had seemed so unconcerned by coalition weapon development. During an emergency session of the Reformed Council, Ambassador Thompson announced what they called the Guardian Initiative. As she spoke, the mass view screen lit up with technical specifications that made even my advanced Ethereum neural circuits pulse with amazement. The quantum phase disruptors the coalition had labored to create. Humans had already adapted that technology to power planetary shield systems, protecting colonies from natural disasters, the secret shipyards. The same stealth technology could be used to hide orbital habitats for species requiring specific atmospheric conditions. Every weapon the coalition developed had already been transformed into a tool for preservation and degrowth. Dr. Maya Patel unveiled the crown jewel of human technological development, a terraforming system that could transform hostile worlds into habitable paradises within decades rather than centuries. The coalition's hidden military installations would become the first test sites, converted into research centers for environmental restoration. Admiral VC Tour, watching from his detention cell, finally understood what his intelligence reports had missed. Humanity had not been ignoring coalition activities. They had been waiting, watching, and quietly developing peaceful applications for every weapon their opponents might create. The transformation of militant species began in unexpected ways. The Vorian warrior clans, renowned for their combat traditions, discovered human martial arts. Their youth became obsessed with something called karate, which taught discipline and respect alongside fighting skills. Voraxian combat schools began incorporating human philosophical concepts like turn the other cheek, not as a sign of weakness, but as a demonstration of superior control. Draconid military academies underwent their own evolution. After studying human battle tactics, they realized that Earth's most successful commanders were also scholars, diplomats, and scientists. The Drachnid High Command reformed their training programs, requiring officers to master cultural understanding alongside strategic planning. The Sayer Collective, embarrassed by their failed weapons program, threw themselves into medical research. Their underground facilities, once used for missile production, now housed laboratories working alongside human scientists. Within months, they made breakthroughs in treating genetic disorders that affected multiple species. Even the coalition's propaganda networks transformed. The channels once used to spread anti-human sentiment became cultural exchange platforms. Popular programs included cooking shows featuring human and alien chefs working together, language learning sessions, and something humans called sitcoms that somehow made living in peace seem both challenging and hilarious. Ambassador Thompson introduced another human concept that proved revolutionary: transparency as a defense strategy. Instead of hiding their capabilities, humans began offering tours of their facilities. They demonstrated exactly how their defenses worked, proving that defeating them would be nearly impossible. But more importantly, they showed why defeating them was unnecessary. The sight of Admiral VC Tour attending a human cooking class in his detention center became a powerful symbol of change. The former rebellion leader discovered he had a talent for making Italian pasta. His prison blog about mastering human cuisine gained millions of followers across coalition space. As he wrote in one post, "I spent years trying to overcome human power, never realizing that their true strength lay in their ability to turn enemies into friends." A pivotal moment came during the first Galactic Culture Festival, held at the site of the former council station. Humans showcased their art, music, and dance alongside performances from hundreds of species. The event culminated in a combined orchestra with human and alien musicians playing together. The harmony they created brought many attendees to their species' equivalent of tears. High Commander Rick Tal of the Vextari delivered a speech that captured the growing understanding of human nature. Standing before the Stellar Dawn Memorial, now expanded to honor all victims of intolerance, he said, "We feared humans would conquer us. Instead, they conquered our fear itself. They did not demand our submission, but offered their friendship. They showed us that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the courage to trust." The decision to establish the Galactic Academy of Peace on Admiral VC Tour's former asteroid base perfectly symbolized the human approach. The facility that once plotted humanity's downfall now hosted students from across the galaxy, learning not just diplomacy and science, but human concepts like friendship, forgiveness, and the power of shared meals. Watching young Drachnid and Vorian students practicing Earth sports in the Academy's recreation dome, I finally understood what my own species had missed. In our logical analysis of human behavior, we had calculated power in terms of weapons, territory, and resources. Humans measured it in connections, understanding, and the strength of shared bonds. Ambassador Thompson explained it during the Academy's opening ceremony. "A weapon can only destroy your enemy, but understanding can transform them into family. That is the true measure of power." The final proof of this transformation came from an unexpected source. When a massive solar storm threatened a remote coalition outpost, the human terraforming system, now repurposed as a mobile shield generator, was When a massive solar storm threatened 3 former coalition worlds, the response was immediate and unified. Human medical ships arrived alongside Drachnid rescue vessels. Vorian warriors worked with Earth engineers to reinforce protective shields, and Sayer scientists coordinated with human doctors to treat radiation exposure. No orders were given. No treaties were invoked. Species that had planned to fight each other now worked together instinctively, applying human emergency response protocols they had learned through years of cooperation. The death toll from an event that once would have devastated populations was reduced to 0. As I record these events for future generations, I am struck by another human saying, "The pen is mightier than the sword." Their greatest victory was not in defeating the coalition's weapons, but in rendering them irrelevant. They did not need to demonstrate their power through force, because they wielded something far stronger: the ability to transform fear into friendship, suspicion into understanding, and enemies into allies. The humans have a word for this kind of power: love. My Etherian neural pathways once dismissed this concept as an emotional weakness. Now, I understand it is the most practical force in the universe. It builds instead of breaks, heals instead of harms, and grows stronger with every use. In the end, humanity's response to aggression was not to punish, but to teach; not to destroy, but to transform; not to conquer, but to connect. And in doing so, they achieved something far greater than victory. They created peace. Today, my grandchild asked me why humans still maintain their warships. I took her to the Galactic Academy of Peace, where Admiral VC Tor now teaches culinary arts. He served us something called spaghetti while explaining what I had learned over these past years. Humans keep their weapons not because they want to use them, but because they understand that true peace comes from strength tempered by wisdom. Their ships remain ready not to wage war, but to preserve the peace we have all built together. Looking out over the Academy grounds, watching species that once plotted against each other, now sharing meals and laughter, I understand at last. Humanity's greatest weapon was never their antimatter cannons or quantum shields. It was their capacity to turn enemies into family, fear into friendship, and conflict into cooperation. They taught us that true power lies not in making others bow, but in helping them stand tall beside you. We will not forget. Not this